Well, digital world, it finally happened. After many attempts, all of them failed, Spliced In Later has finally gone to the movie theaters to talk about a new movie that has just come out. Unfortunately, it will most likely be the last movie that we get to see at the movie theaters for quite some time. I don't know about the rest of the world, but certainly here in Australia, and I know in a lot of countries, everything's shutting down because of things that are going on at the moment. I won't talk too much about what's going on in the world. A lot of people listen to podcasts to find an escape, to distract themselves, to talk about things that they enjoy talking about, things that make them happy. And at the moment, if you look at the news, social media, it's mainly bad and it's all depressing as hell. So not here. I promise we will not talk about the impending end of the world, but instead we'll talk about movies. However, because of the things that are going on, movie theaters are shutting down probably for quite some time. I'd say minimum a month, maximum who knows how long. This movie that I went to see had been out in America for about a month, so there was no reason for it not to be shown here in Australia. It wasn't having a worldwide release that was going to be cancelled, which was good. It was more just, would it make it to the cinemas before the cinemas themselves shut down? Yes and no. There were sessions over the weekend, but they were advanced screenings. Its official release date in Australia here was March 26, which is this Thursday. That's not going to happen. However, adapting in a changing world, this movie, I believe, is available now in on-demand video, and it will be available on Disney Plus on April 3rd. So, you can still listen to me talk about this movie. You can decide if the movie's good, and there is a way for you to watch this movie without breaking any laws. If you want to break any laws, I don't hold it against you, whatever. Trying times at the moment, see movies however you can. So this will probably be my last review of a current movie for some time. I promise going forward, we'll find some other stuff to talk about. We'll talk about old movies, we'll do some more lists, we'll do some discussions. But for now, while we can, let me give you Spliced In Later's review of the new Pixar movie, Onward. Now, if you recall, maybe it was about a month ago, I did a top 10 Pixar list because we've got 2 Pixar movies coming out this year, which is Onward and Soul. So you can tell that I very much love Pixar movies. They hold a special place in my heart. They have such good quality. They give me all the emotions. I'm always very excited when a Pixar movie is on the docket. While I'm always excited when they do a sequel for one of the older Pixar movies that I do love with all my heart, whether it's Toy Story, Incredibles, Finding Nemo, Cars, anything like that, it is very exciting when Pixar actually does do an original movie. Because if you get something that's just pure gold, like Inside Out or Coco, then it blows you away. It proves the leaps and bounds that we are making, not just in making animated films for children, but animated films for the whole age group to appreciate. So it works in favor, but also against original Pixar movies. Because coming out of the gate, they're always held to such a high level that they have to hit. It's not like if a new Ice Age movie comes out, people will go, okay, cool, it's just a fun time at the movies to entertain the kids too. If a new Despicable Me movie comes out, if something from DreamWorks or Warner Brothers, something like that, sure, people might expect something from them. Sure, there might be certain varying levels of quality that you come to expect from certain companies. But if you're Pixar and you say we've got a new movie coming out, right off the bat, you've got people going, is it going to be Toy Story 3? Is it going to be Inside Out? Is it going to be the greatest thing in the world? And if it doesn't make me cry, is it the worst movie ever? So it's rough. It's a hard thing for a Pixar movie to come at. It's good to look at these type of movies with fresh eyes. Forget it's a Pixar movie. Just watch it as a movie. And then later on you can have a think about it and hold it to the standard of other Pixar movies. Otherwise it's unfair to go, it's a Pixar movie, it has to be the greatest movie I've ever seen of all time. And if it doesn't sell short of make me question my place here on Earth, then it's not a good movie. Alright, so unpacking that. What did I think of Onward? Well, I loved it. I actually thought it was one of the greater Pixar movies I've ever seen. It has wormed its way into my heart already, and it's only been 5 days. It is my favourite film of the year so far. That's not saying much because there hasn't been many movies to see this year. But it's definitely earned a spot, and I would be surprised if we got to the end of the year and Onward had been removed from the top 10 list of 2020. Not just because we might not see enough movies to even fill 10 movies, but because I just really enjoyed it and I thought it was that good. As a Pixar movie, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought it was good. I thought it was just as good as some other Pixar movies. Looking at reviews that are out there online that other people have talked about it, the general consensus seems to be that Onward is a good movie, enjoyable, but it falls subpar to every other Pixar movie that's out there. And I would have to disagree on that one. I don't know, as I've said before, my opinion of movies is always positive. Maybe I don't look on things with an objective perspective. Maybe I'm not as educated as I like to think that I am. But when it comes to this movie, the themes that this movie explores, the characters it establishes, the world it builds, is just as on par with something like Inside Out, taking what's going on with your emotions in your head and exploring that world. Or creating a world behind your closet door with a whole bunch of monsters and how they operate their world. This, I believe, is just as good as any of that stuff. In terms of the Pixar quality, it's not going to make you bawl. It's not going to be the start of Up, where you just can't gather yourself to even get past the first 10 minutes of the movie, let alone the rest of it. You can watch this movie and probably not cry unless there is this personal connection in that movie that you might relate to. Specifically, siblings. If you've got brothers, sisters, and you have some sort of connection with them, maybe it's been strained, maybe you've got a rock-solid connection, but maybe sometimes you've argued. This movie's going to hit you in the feels, and in my case, get you emotional. There's a bit towards the end of the movie where I really thought I was going to cry, and it's okay if I did. Not just because I was the only one in the cinema, because everyone's too afraid to go to the cinemas at the moment, but because it earned its way into making me feel the way it felt. Right, now, let's discuss the movie and what I guess you're going to assume is good about it. I've already kind of given away my overall opinion of the movie. Is he going to be positive or negative about it? I wonder. But no, let's get into it, unpack it a bit, and then we'll give it the Spliced In Later seal of approval. Onward exists in a world where Dungeons & Dragons characters exist, Game of Thrones characters exist, elves, dragons, centaurs, goblins, all of that. But they progressed in the same instance that we have. So they eventually discovered the light bulb, they discovered electricity, they built cars, they built planes, they got an education system, they elected presidents, they wore clothes. So it's our world, every day going on, but just inhabited by elves, goblins, dwarves, that sort of thing. Magic, to them at this point, is myth and legends of the past. They know magic did exist. It's not that they don't believe magic is a thing. They just don't care about it anymore, because why use magic to start a fire when you can just use the lighter that you've got in your pocket? We follow two brothers, voiced greatly by Tom Holland of Peter Parker Spider-Man fame, and Chris Pratt of Peter Quill Star-Lord fame, as Ian and Barley. They are two brothers, two very different brothers. Ian is the awkward misfit going through high school, too nervous to make friends, too nervous to make a name for himself, to stand out amongst the crowd. And then you've got Barley, who is the Dungeons & Dragons, beer swilling, van driving, I don't want to say screw up because it's not a screw up, but he's the ne'er-do-well, the one who's more likely to sleep for a year than get a job, that sort of thing. They both have their own issues, and the main issue that both of them have, though, is that they have grown up without their father. Their father passed away when they were very young. Through a series of incidents, they find a way that they can actually reunite with their father, sort of. Things don't go exactly as planned. So in order to actually have the reunion that they want with the situation that has been presented to them, Ian and Barley must, of course, go on a road trip to go from point A to point B to point C, so at the end of the day, they can see their father and have a chat to him while they still can. Now, what's great, as I just said, about this world is the world building. It is an incredibly cool concept. I've read a lot of stuff that this is just your standard fantasy world, that Pixar has gone into, that it's not anything unique that we haven't seen in other movies. I would disagree. I think it's incredibly interesting to see how Dungeons and Dragons characters would react in a world like us, and how just nonchalantly they go about their lives with electricity and power. How their society has been built above what was before. You've got a tavern where once raiders and plunderers would meet and swill beer and have sword fights, been turned into a kids' restaurant. You've got an old road leading to the Mountain of Doom that's been converted into a freeway. It's very entertaining to see, and I think it's done very well explaining why the world is the way the world is, and why you should just enjoy what's happening in front of you. I think anyone who's ever played Dungeons and Dragons, anyone who's ever watched the Lord of the Rings movies, Game of Thrones, read any fantasy novel, is going to get a kick out of this movie, seeing how it's all been interspliced together. I don't play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I don't really understand it, not because I don't not want to play it, but because my imagination is limited to what I see in movies and TVs. However, I have had some good times playing Dungeons and Dragons with some friends, and I would like to take those friends to see this movie, because from what we've done in the game to what we've seen on the movie, I think we would get a lot out of it, and I think a lot of other people would too. In terms of the characters, our main characters Ian and Barley are very likable and very lovable. I think Tom Holland and Chris Pratt do really well playing the brothers together. I think they're building on whatever relationship they managed to build while working on Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and I think they're also capitalizing on the perception that people have of them and their voices working on this movie. Tom Holland is very Peter Parker in his role. He's very awkward, unsure of himself, a bit of a goofball, has power that he doesn't really know what to do with, doesn't have the confidence to really strike out on his own. Chris Pratt is very Star-Lord, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Barley. He rolls with the punches. He's got confidence. He's got charisma. He's a bit of a screw-up, but he screws up valiantly. He still pushes forward, and he has great ideas when he's not trying to have great ideas. Looking at this movie, I think they would be very smart if they ever did an MCU film which just starred Spider-Man and Star-Lord. I think they would have great on live action as they do in animation, if from what I see in here is any reflection of them in real life. Just fantastic. So of course they hold the film. Ian is probably a bit more important than Barley in terms of the point of the story, but it is those two's relationship that pushes this film. You could not have the movie with just one of them and not the other. Our main theme of this movie is the relationship between the two, the brothers. And if you have a brother, if you get sick of them sometimes, if you guys have argued, but really, if you look deep down, your brother has been there for you, whether you realize it or not. It's all evidenced on screen, and it's enough to make you sit and think and really cherish that relationship if you haven't before. Make you double think about your attitude to your brother and your sister and any sort of relationship you've got going on. And it is capitalized by these voices and these characters. Fantastic stuff. Our supporting cast are all good. You've got Julia Louis-Dreyfus as their mother. She's great as this kick-ass single mother, which is awesome. Our scene stealer for the movie is Octavia Spencer. She plays a character simply called the Manticore. Now imagine a Manticore, or if you are not sure what a Manticore is, imagine a centaur, a Pegasus, a flying lion, any sort of mythical creature that's vicious. Imagine if they stopped being vicious and had to settle down into a medium, mundane 9-to-5 job, but also suffer a midlife crisis while doing the 9-to-5 job to the point where they have a psychotic break. That's essentially the Manticore, and Octavia Spencer puts so much energy into this voice, this wackiness. I didn't even know it was her for about half the movie. I knew I recognized the voice somewhere, but I couldn't quite pit it, and that's how Octavia Spencer really threw herself into the role. Every time she was on screen, she stole the scene. Everything she said was funny. The animation style for her character was absolutely out of control. She was beautiful when she needed to be, and horrifying when she needed to be. Incredible. Octavia Spencer apparently can do anything, whether it's being in apocalyptic movies like Snowpiercer, horror films like Ma, or The Help, Hidden Figures, anything like that. Octavia Spencer can do it all. Evidence here in this movie as well. Finally, what makes this movie so good and perhaps it's influenced by the time that we are all experiencing together right now, is that this movie is just lighthearted, fun, good-natured adventure. It is a good movie. It runs for 90 minutes that you can pop on and get lost in the adventure and the quest of Ian and Barley. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you think. You'll be amazed by the visuals. You'll get touched by the themes. You'll be amazed at how things are connected from the magical world to the technology world. And you'll just forget for a while that things are a bit stressed and nuts right now. Perhaps if this movie had come out in a different time, maybe it would not be so high for me. But in the long run, when I went into this movie, what I was looking for was something to escape with, to distract me, to make me have a good time, to make me laugh. Because, things aren't great at the moment. You haven't had that for a while. And Onward succeeded in spells and bounds. I cannot stress enough that if things are rough for you, if you need an outlet anywhere to get away from what's going on, to quell your anxiety, or even, you just want to watch a new movie, this will succeed in leaps and bounds. Absolutely. I give Onward a 9 out of 10. It is, at the moment, my favourite film of the year, as mentioned previously. It is available, video on demand. You can get it on Disney Plus in April 3rd. If you're somewhere where a movie theatre is open, unlikely, and you do feel brave enough to go, I must reiterate, though, that if your government or whatever are telling everybody that it's best to stay inside, do that. This movie is available online. You don't have to risk your life or anyone else's to go and see it. It'll get you through the tough times. Give it a couple rewatches once you've got it. I certainly will when I have a chance to. I think overall it's going to really bring some joy and light into everyone's life. I think everyone's going to really get Ian and Barley and their characters and really love their relationship as brothers. I think everyone's going to be amazed by the magical world and what they've done. Overall, Pixar, you've done it again. Well done. Other people may disagree with me. They might say it's a subpar Pixar film. That's their prerogative. For me, if I could redo my top 10 Pixar films, I'm pretty sure Onward would be on the list. Maybe not at the top end, but certainly at the bottom. Well, there we are. Once you finish listening to me, I hope you go and watch Onward, and I hope you agree that it's a good movie. If not, oh well, watch something else, I guess. As we go forward in the coming weeks, I promise I will be here every week to give you something consistently not related to what's going on in the world, just something to listen to, movie and TV-wise, for you to escape to. I hope you keep listening to me. I hope everybody out there powers on. Everybody will get through all the stress together. We just gotta keep pushing forward, as they say. I know I appreciate making these and sending them out to you, and that you guys are all listening to me. It also quells my stressness, so I look forward to planning what I'm going to tell you about next week. And then hopefully, in a month or so, I can come back to you and review a movie after having gone to a cinema where everything is fine and we don't have to worry. But until then, I will see you next week. I'd love and appreciate it as always. Go and watch Onward. Have a good time. You've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.